Hi everybody! As you can see, the weather is absolutely spectacular here, so I thought I would bring you to one of my favorite places here in Knowlton, Douglas Beach. And as you can see, there's an island right behind me. It's called Eagle Island because bald eagles breed and hang out there. We actually go and check on them when the lake freezes in the winter, and we can actually walk or skate on it. I'll share that with you in just a few months. We actually spend a lot of time on this beach, and of course every time we come here there are ducks or geese hanging out, and as tempting as it is to pack a bunch of food to feed waterfowl, you know, especially when I come here with kids, we never do. So just a quick reminder, it is recommended not to feed any waterfowl at all. So of course bread, crackers, popcorn are completely out of the question, because anything we give them, you know, any kind of our food, not only leads to malnutrition, it also leads to overcrowding. You know, everyone likes free food, and then when there's so many birds congregating in one spot, that spreads diseases. And then imagine all the feces that those ducks and geese leave in public places like here, especially where kids come to play all the time. But if you have been feeding birds, waterfowl, ducks, geese, or you know someone who has been, a good way to wean them off that's a human food is to bring food that's very close to their natural diet. So that's greens, grasses, grains, and bugs. So I recommend chopped up lettuce, Swiss chard, kale, anything that hasn't been exposed to pesticides, black oil sunflower seeds, and dried mealworms. Tom Joyce would like to know whether it's a good idea to have a heated bird bath for your birds in the winter, especially when you're somewhere like here in Canada where temperatures drop suddenly.
Hi Tom. You know, birds do like bathing at all times of year, and it's really fun to watch them do it. They truly seem to enjoy themselves. However, even birds have got to be careful under certain kinds of weather conditions, in particular exceptionally cold temperatures that are well below freezing. I've heard of cases of dead birds being found in a yard after they had bathed in a neighbor's bath warmed by a heater, and the temperature suddenly dropped precipitously. And I'll never forget my own experience with my captive peregrine falcons in Montreal quite a number of years ago, whereupon we impulsively decided to put out baths for them in winter. They immediately used them, but suddenly we were faced with an overnight cold snap, and we almost lost a number of those falcons to hypothermia. In other words, the birds had no clue that the temperatures were going to drop precipitously. While some wildlife conservation organizations decree that heated baths are dangerous to birds and thus should not be used, I believe that one has to use a little common sense. If you're living in a region where the temperatures can suddenly drop to well below freezing in winter, and you've got a bird bath equipped with a heater, you should indeed pay attention to changing weather systems and consider covering your bird bath with a garbage bag with incoming cold weather. Alternatively, you can add some rocks to your bath so they can't really bathe in it, but can still get a drink. Birds do not need to bathe often, but they do need a drink now and then.
Both Dr. Bird and I have talked about the benefits of bird watching, and recently there have been a number of studies conducted, and all of them point to the same thing. Bird watching is good for our mental health, especially for people who live in built-up areas with not a lot of green space around them. Because green spaces means birds, and watching birds helps us alleviate anxiety and stress. So this month's environmental challenge for you is to add more greenery either to your backyard, to your neighborhood, or to anyone else who doesn't have it. And you see here at our public beach, the town actually didn't cut down any of the trees. They planted more bushes, and they planted lots of native flowers. Right above me is a beautiful maple tree, and when in the summer, when this beach is packed, I always see birds. There are kingbirds right there, there are always ducks and geese, and then of course there are hummingbirds coming to check out all the flowers that the town has planted for them.
The native wildlife in the Galapagos Islands, including Darwin's famous finch species, are getting a helping hand from a relatively new technology for conservationists: drones. The islands have long been plagued by the human-caused introduction of goats, dogs, and cats, but the most aggressive and problematic introduced animals are rats. Ships visiting the islands during the 19th and 20th centuries brought with them black and brown rats that thrived with no natural predators and began to breed out of control. Worldwide, invasive rodent infestations are estimated to account for 86% of the known extinction of native wildlife and islands. The rodents especially threaten unhatched and young birds because they eat eggs and nestlings, and they also kill off native vegetation by gnawing on the branches and eating their seeds. Partly due to its huge tourism industry, rats have become the target of multiple eradication campaigns across the Galapagos. After trying manually to eradicate the rats on 2 Galapagos islands to protect indigenous wildlife, including frigate birds and swallow-tailed gulls, the Galapagos National Park began deploying drones to drop baits laced with rodenticides in areas with high rat concentrations in January of 2019. Offering increased speed, efficiency, and safety over manual baiting over rugged terrain, the machines are also cheaper and much safer than using helicopters. It was the first time such an approach has been used on vertebrates in the wild, and now plans are being formulated to use the drone technology on other Pacific islands facing rat problems.
Well, with this beautiful weather, the beach got a little bit too crowded and a little bit too loud, so we had to change locations. So I'm bringing you to another one of my favorite spots here in Knowlton, Marina Knowlton. As you can see, it's already closed for the season, but it's still so beautiful outside. Anyway, let's talk about a New Zealand bird right now, the kale. Did you know that this bird is the world's only alpine parrot, and it's been on New Zealand's endangered list for years now? The birds are notoriously slow to breed, but they're so intelligent and so curious that the major cause of their deaths is actually interaction with human habitats. And because these birds are so smart, trying to breed them in captivity has been a huge challenge, because if they don't get stimulated enough, their mental health deteriorates really fast. Recently, researchers decided to introduce these birds to touchscreen activities like virtual puzzles and games. The only problem with that is that birds' beaks are made out of the same material as our nails, and you know what it's like trying to touch a screen with your nail. It doesn't really work. However, researchers came up with a solution to that. They put bits and pieces of peanut butter on the screen, so now birds are quite happy playing the games with their tongues. The next challenge, the birds don't seem to distinguish between virtual reality and reality. Have you seen any of Cornell's interactive migratory maps? It's absolutely fascinating to see how many, not just thousands, but millions of birds migrate during the night. Anyway, right now it's the peak season for bird migration, and there's actually good news for the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. All the changes that were being introduced to it in 2020 have been reversed, and now the big industries that cause, incidental bird death will be held responsible, just like they used to before 2020. Well, goodbye for now. I hope you'll be able to plant something before it gets too cold. Enjoy the beautiful weather, the colors, bird migration. I'll see you in 2 weeks.